16. Although Lord Rishabhadeva knew everything about confidential Vedic knowledge, which includes information about all types of occupational duties, he still maintained himself as a Kshatriya and followed the instructions of the Brahmanas as they related to mind control, sense control, tolerance, and so forth. Thus, he ruled the people according to the system of Varnashrama Dharma, which enjoins that the Brahmanas instruct the Kshatriyas and the Kshatriyas administer to the state through the Vaishyas and Sudras. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Although Rishabha Deva knew all the Vedic instructions perfectly well, he nonetheless followed the instructions of the Brahmanas in order to perfectly maintain social order. The Brahmanas would give advice according to the Shastras, and all the other castes would follow. The word Brahma means perfect knowledge of all activities. And this knowledge is very confidentially described in the Vedic literatures. Men trained perfectly as Brahmanas should know all Vedic literature, and the benefit derived from this literature should be distributed to the general populace. The general populace should follow the perfect Brahmana. In this way, one can learn how to control the mind and senses and thus gradually advance to spiritual perfection. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Text number 17. Lord Rishabhadeva performed all kinds of sacrifices 100 times according to the instructions of the Vedic literatures. Thus, he satisfied Lord Vishnu in every respect. All the rituals were enriched by first class ingredients. They were executed in holy places according to the proper time by priests who were all young and faithful. In this way, Lord Vishnu was worshipped, and the prasada was offered to all the demigods. Thus, the functions and festivals were all successful. Haribol. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said, Ko Mara Acharit Pragno Dharman Bhagavatam Iha. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.6.1. A ritual should be performed by young men, even boys, at a tender age in order for the ritual to be performed successfully. From childhood, people should be trained in Vedic culture, especially in devotional service. In this way, one can perfect one's life. A Vaishnava does not disrespect the demigods, but on the other hand, he is not so foolish as he accepts, not so foolish that he accepts each and every demigod as the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is master of all demigods. Therefore, the demigods are his servants. The Vaishnava accepts them as servants of the Supreme Lord, and he worships them directly. In the Brahma Samhita, the the important demigods, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and even the incarnations and expansions of Lord Krishna, like Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and all other Vishnu tattvas, as well as the Shakti tattvas like Durga Devi, are all worshipped by the process of worshiping Govinda with the words Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. A Vaishnava worships the demigods in relation to Govinda, not independently. He doesn't go one by one to every one of the demigods. He worships the demigods through the uh, worship of Govinda. Vaishnavas are not so foolish that they consider the demigods independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasava Vritya. The Supreme Master is Krishna, and all others are his servants. Therefore, if you please Krishna, then all the demigods are pleased. Text number 18. No one likes to possess anything that is like a will-o'-the-wisp or a flower in the sky, meaning something that is not permanent. So those are two ways of things that are not permanent. The will-o'-the-wisp comes and goes, or a flower in the sky, which has no real substance to it. For everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. That means they're not eternal. They might exist for a little while, but they eventually go away, and you end up with nothing. When Lord Rishabhadev ruled this planet of Bharatvarsha, even common men did not want to ask for anything. Ah, interesting. At any time or by any means, no one ever asks for a will-o'-the-wisp, something that is temporary. Will-o'-the-wisp is things that are temporary. They seem to have substance, but actually they come and they go very quickly, and then you end up with nothing. In other words, everyone was completely satisfied, and therefore there was no chance of anyone's asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. Yeah, because they had the minimum of everything they needed. So they didn't have to ask for anything. They simply engaged in a devotional service of the Lord, knowing very well that the Lord will take care of his devotees. Purport. In Bengal, the word Goda Dimba is used, which means the egg of a horse. Obviously, horses don't lay eggs, but the egg of a horse means something that is nonsense. Since a horse never lays an egg, the word Goda Dimba actually has no meaning. Yeah. In Sanskrit, there is a word, Ka Pushpa, which means the flower in the sky. Obviously, there are no flowers in the sky. So the will-o'-the-wisp, or it is Goda Dimba, something that you may think exists, but it doesn't exist. It's fake. It's nonsense. In Sanskrit, there's the word ka pushpa, which means the flower in the sky. No flower grows in the sky. Therefore, no one is interested in asking for ka pushpa or goda dimba. During the reign of Maharaj Rishabhadeva, people were so well equipped that they did not want to ask for anything. They were immensely supplied with all necessities for life due to King Rishabhadeva's good government. That's nice. This is the perfection of government. In other words, consequently, everyone felt full satisfaction and did not want anything. This is the perfection of government. If the citizens are unhappy due to bad government, the heads of government are condemned. During these democratic days, monarchy is disliked by the people. But here, an example of how an emperor of the whole world kept all the citizens fully satisfied by supplying the necessities of life and following the Vedic principles. Thus, everyone was happy during the reign of Maharaj Rishabhadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, everyone was able to have their minimum needs taken care of. So there was no anxiety and no, let's say, uh, revolt. So it says here, serving a Vaishnava, I'm sorry, uh, once while touring the world, Lord Rishabhadeva, the Supreme Lord, reached a place known as Brahmavarta. There was a great conference of learned Brahmanas at that place, and all the king's sons attentively heard the instructions of the Brahmanas. At that assembly, within the hearing of the citizens, Rishabhadeva instructed his sons, although they were already very well behaved, devoted, and qualified. He instructed them so that in the future they could rule the world very perfectly. Thus he spoke as follows. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The instructions of Lord Rishabhadeva to his sons are very valuable. If one wants to live peacefully within this world, which is full of miseries, in the next chapter, Lord Rishabhadeva gives his sons these valuable instructions. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fifth canto, fourth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Characteristics of Rishabhadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we go to chapter 5, Lord Rishabhadeva's teachings to his son. Okay, this is very, very good knowledge here. In this chapter, there's a description of Bhagavata Dharma, religious principles in devotional service that transcend religious principles for liberation and the mitigation of material misery. Yeah, there's something greater than simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. There is what's stated here in religious principles in devotional service. that transcend religious principles for liberation and the mitigation of material misery. It is stated in this chapter that a human being should not work hard like dogs and hogs for sense gratification. Very important statement. It doesn't mean that the devotee is lazy. It means that he should not work like a dog or a hog for sense gratification, but he should work very hard for attaining love of God or love of Krishna. The human life is especially meant for the revival of our relationship with the Supreme Lord. Okay, now that's explaining the purpose of life, the real purpose of life. And to this end, all kinds of austerities and penances should be accepted. Well, let me just say one thing here. What are the austerities that Hare Krishna devotees perform? They are not uh, severe types of tapasya. They are uh, very, mild tapasya, chanting, dancing, feasting, hearing nice lectures, and going on sankirtan. So this is not, starving yourself to death and so forth. It's very gentle and nice type of tapasya for devotees. By austere activities, one's heart can be cleansed of material contamination, and as a result, one can be situated in the spiritual platform. To attain this perfection, one has to take shelter of a devotee and serve him. Then the door of liberation will be opened. Those who are materially attached to women and sense gratification gradually become entangled in material consciousness and suffer the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. Those who are engaged in the general welfare of all and who are not attached to children and family are called Mahatmas. Those who are engaged in sense gratification, who act pious, uh, piously or impiously, cannot understand the purpose of the soul. Therefore, they should approach a highly elevated devotee and accept him as a spiritual master. By his association, one will be able to understand the purpose of life. Under the instructions of such a spiritual master, one can attain devotional service to the Lord, detachment from material things, and tolerance of material misery and distress. One can then see all living entities equally, and one becomes very eager to know about transcendental subject matter, endeavoring persistently for the satisfaction of Krishna. One becomes detached from wife, children, and home. That doesn't mean that a devotee gives them up. It means that he's detached. He's not spending his whole time thinking about his wife and his children and so forth. But he does engage his wife and his children and home in the service of Krishna. He is not interested in wasting time. In this way, one becomes self realized. A person advanced in spiritual knowledge does not engage anyone in material activity. There it is. That's the main statement. Like going to, the uh, places where there's nonsense going on. Uh, Oftentimes, people want to go to a Ferris wheel and go up and down and around. And when they're on the high part, they say, "Hey, mommy, hi, daddy." And then when they come down, they say, "Oh, I'm going to go back up again." Yeah, that is complete nonsense. The Ferris wheel and other types of nonsense rides and merry-go-rounds and so forth. And one who cannot deliver another person by instructing him in devotional service should not become a spiritual master, father, mother, demigod, or husband. Instructing his 100 sons, Lord Rishabhadeva advised them to accept their eldest brother as and Lord, thereby of all living entities, the Brahmanas are the best, and above the Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas are situated in an even better position. Serving a Vaishnava means serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, Sukadeva Goswami describes the characteristics of Bharat Maharaj and the sacrificial performance executed by Lord Rishabhadev for the instruction of the general populace. Okay, now we're going to hear about that. Lord Rishabhadeva told his sons, "My dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies, in this world, one who has been awarded the human form should not work hard day and night." See, there it is. That's true. Why? Because if you work so hard, you don't have time for Krishna consciousness and for devotional activities. So we're not meant to work really hard, like beasts of by the burden of beasts. We should work, uh, very uh, let's say, uh, very conscious that the real purpose of life is going back to Godhead. It's not simply making a lot of money and sense gratification, which will oblige us to work very, very hard and to maintain that type of lifestyle. It's better to not be so interested in making a lot of money and having sense gratification and houses and cars. And I mean, we should have a house, but it doesn't have to be a real big house. And we can have a car, but it doesn't have to be the most expensive car. And we can have a family, but it shouldn't be a family that's only mundane. Therefore, it says, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. That's the main thing. It's eternal, it is not temporary. Sense gratification is temporary, but being a devotee and developing love for Krishna is eternal. We should not waste our time on temporary things. We should always be involved in things that are eternal. So, and when you chant Hare Krishna, that is something that is eternal. If you chant Hallelujah, that's something that is temporary and nonsense. So, we should not concern ourselves with temporary things. And also, we shouldn't work very, very hard, like beasts of, uh, animals that are forced to work real hard. We should work moderately, but have time for Krishna consciousness. Not be so busy that there's no time for Krishna consciousness. In this verse, Lord Rishabhadeva tells his sons about the importance of human life. The word dehabhak refers to anyone who accepts a material body, but the living entity who is awarded the human form must act differently from animals. Animals, like dogs and hogs, enjoy sense gratification by eating stool. After undergoing severe hardships all day, human beings are trying to enjoy themselves at night by eating, drinking, having sex, and sleeping. At the same time, they have to properly defend themselves. However, this is not human civilization. Human life means voluntarily practicing suffering for the advancement of spiritual life. There is, of course, suffering in the lives of animals and plants, which are suffering due to their past misdeeds. However, human beings should voluntarily accept suffering in the form of austerities and penances in order to attain divine life. Very important statement. So, going to sleep early, waking up early, bathing regularly twice a day, or 3 times a day, and taking part in devotional activities and so forth. This is all tapasya, but actually, Hare Krishna tapasya is actually fun, and it's actually, uh, let's say, done with love and devotion for Krishna. It's not like a uh, severe person who hurts his body and mind by severe types of tapasya. No, the devotee is actually having a very nice life, full of wonderful relationships and chanting and dancing and so forth. So it says, after attaining the divine life, one can enjoy happiness eternally. After all, every living entity is trying. Every living entity is trying to enjoy happiness. But as long as one is engaged in the material body, he has to suffer different kinds of misery. A higher sense is present in the human form. We should act according to superior advice in order to attain eternal happiness and go back to Godhead. Yeah, we shouldn't be engaged in mundane activities that are temporary and will keep us life after life in the material world. We should engage in some type of tapasya, meaning activities that are dedicated to pleasing the Lord, which may seem difficult in the beginning, but as one goes along, they realize that this is the real purpose of life, to control the senses and the mind and engage them always in the service of the Lord. It is significant in this verse that the government and the natural guardian, the father, should educate subordinates, meaning his children, and raise them to Krishna consciousness. Yeah, the children shouldn't be engaged in sense gratification and mundane life. They should be engaged in Krishna conscious activities, even from the beginning of life. Devoid of Krishna consciousness, every living being suffers in this cycle of birth and death perpetually. So that's a cycle that we want to get out of. And the only way is through Krishna consciousness. To relieve them from this bondage and enable them to become blissful and happy, bhakti yoga should be taught. A foolish civilization neglects to teach people how to rise to the platform of bhakti yoga. Without Krishna consciousness, a person is no better than a hog or a dog. The instructions of Rishabhadev are very essential. At the present moment, people are being educated and trained to work very hard for sense gratification. And there is no sublime aim in life. In other words, there's no Krishna consciousness. A man travels to earn his livelihood, leaving home early in the morning, catching the local train, and being packed in a compartment. He has to stand for an hour or two in order to reach his place of business. Then again, he takes a bus to get to the office. At the office, he works hard from 9 to 5. Then he takes 2 or 3 hours to return home. After eating, he has sex and goes to sleep. For all this hardship, his only happiness is a little sex. Yam Maitanadi Vihamedi Sukam Itucham. Rishabdev clearly states that human life is not meant for this kind of existence, which is enjoyed even by dogs and hogs. Indeed, dogs and hogs with dogs and hogs do not have to work so hard for sex. A human being should try to live in a different way and should not try to imitate dogs and hogs. The alternative is mentioned. Human life is meant for tapasya, austerity, and penance. By tapasya, one can get out of the material clutches. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, devotional service, his happiness is guaranteed eternally by taking to bhakti yoga, devotional service. By devotional service, one's existence is purified. The living entity is seeking happiness, life after life, but he can make a solution to all his problems simply by practicing bhakti yoga. Then he immediately becomes eligible to return home back to Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata. Takvadeham punarjanma naitimam eti sarjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This statement, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, has been referred to many times already in our reading. Why? Because it's very important. One who knows the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains the eternal abode of Krishna. This is the advice given to Arjuna and obviously to us also. Text 2. So this is a very famous verse. Mahat Sevam Varam Apur Vimuktes. Tamodvaram Yositam Sangi Sangam. Mahantaste Samachitta Prashanta. Vimanyava Surhita Sadavo Ye. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. The Mahatmas are equipoise, meaning very tolerant and not fanatics. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas, purported by Srila Prabhupada. The human body is like a junction. One may either take the path of liberation or the path leading to a hellish condition. Yeah, you can go either way. How one can take these paths is described herein. On the path of liberation, one associates with Mahatma, meaning great devotees. And on the path of bondage, one associates with those attached to sense gratification and women. There are two types of Mahatmas, the impersonalist and the devotee. Although their ultimate goal is different, the process of emancipation is almost the same. Both want eternal happiness. One seeks happiness in impersonal Brahman, and the other seeks happiness in the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As described in the first verse, Brahma Sukyam. Brahman means spiritual or eternal, both or eternal. Both the impersonalist and the devotee seek eternal blissful life. In any case, it is advised that one becomes perfect. In the words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 2287, Asat Sangatyaga E Vaishnava Achar, Sri Sangi Eka Asadu Krishna Bhakta Ara. It's a very beautiful verse, which means to remain unattached to the modes of material nature. One should avoid associating with those who are asat, materialistic. Everything depends on who you associate with. If you associate with unholy people, you will become unholy. If you associate with genuine devotees, you'll become a genuine devotee. So the real purpose of life is to associate only with genuine devotees and become a genuine devotee also, and therefore be trained to go back to Godhead and not linger in the filth of material life, of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending only for getting sense gratification. There are two kinds of materialists. One is attached to women and sense gratification, and the other is simply a non devotee. On the positive side is association with Mahatmas, and on the negative side is avoidance of non devotees and women hunters. So one is attached. So there are two kinds of materialists. One is attached to women and sense gratification, and the other is simply a non devotee. On the positive side is association with Mahatmas, great devotees. And on the negative side is the avoidance of non devotees and women hunters. Okay, well, that means that one can make devotional advancement by associating with Mahatmas. But also, there's a negative side that is the avoidance of non devotees and women hunters. When it says the negative side, it's something that you give up, which is completely unnecessary for spiritual life. So, uh, avoiding non devotees and women hunters is completely unnecessary for making spiritual advancement. Well, that should be given up. On the other hand, on the positive side, association with pure devotees or Mahatmas should be our main, let's say, friendship and our main association. Okay, so now we go to text number 3. Those who are interested in reviving Krishna consciousness and increasing their love of Godhead do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. That's a very significant statement. They are not interested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are not attached to their homes, although they may be householders, nor are they attached to wives, children, friends, or wealth. At the same time, they are not indifferent to execution of their duties. Very important statement. Such people are interested in collecting only enough money to keep the body and soul together. Yeah, they're not crazy working day and night just to get rich and having a big, big bank account. But they'll never really spend all that money. They just keep it in the bank account. So uh, we should make money during the day and spend it before the night in the service of Krishna. That doesn't mean we have no savings. We should have 25% of our income as savings, and 25 and the rest, and 25% for maintenance, and the rest meaning 50%, should be engaged in devotional service, in serving the Vaishnavas, etc. Purport: whether he is an impersonalist or a devotee, one who's actually interested in advancing spiritually should not mingle with those who are simply interested in maintaining the body by means of the so-called advancement of civilization. Those who are interested in spiritual life should not be attached to homely comforts in the company of wife, children, friends, and so forth. So that doesn't mean you can't have those things. It means that one should not be attached to those things because they're all temporary At any moment, all those things can go away. Just like we're seeing this every day. Even now, we see there are people that have nice home, nice wife, nice children, and a good life. And all of a sudden, there's a tsunami. There's a bad weather, and their house and their family members are killed by flooding. It's happening right now, right? So even though they have a nice house, a nice family, all of a sudden there is a very severe storm, and everything is destroyed. And you end up with nothing. It happens over and over again in this world. So, therefore, we should not think that these temporary things are the real purpose of life. If we have a Krishna conscious life, we are cognizant of the fact that at any moment, all this materialism and sense gratification can be destroyed. And we see it. Or even now, we've seen, people have nice houses and cars, and they get wiped out by severe weather and rain and wind and uh, what you would call uh, wild um, uh, water that destroys a house and people's lives. Right? It can happen overnight. It can happen in a few minutes, even. Recently, just last week, uh, people's houses and their whole life and their lives were destroyed just in a few minutes. Right? So, yeah, we should not put all our faith in mundane life and mundane philosophy and mundane activities. We should always be engaged in spiritual activities, knowing very well that Krishna is promising to protect his devotee. So that should be our main, let's say, meditation, that always meditate on Krishna, knowing very well that Krishna will protect his devotees. But we should also understand that we're not meant to live eternally in the material world. So we should prepare ourselves to go back to Godhead. That's the real purpose of life, not to stay eternally in the material world, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, having different bodies, and uh, always being subjected to miseries. The whole material world is full of miseries. So foolish people think, oh no, I've achieved, nice house, nice car, nice uh, money, nice children, nice wife. My life is perfect. No, it's not perfect. At any moment, you could lose all those things, and we see it. You just look into the newspaper, and you'll see that there are people who are getting wiped out completely by bad weather or by other things, by dacoits that kill them and steal everything they have. It's a trust no uh, life or trust no let's say uh, happiness in the material world, because once you engage in sense gratification, you will be subjected to suffering. It's a law of material nature. Everyone who engages in sense gratification, they will also experience suffering. So, why engage in sense gratification? We should only gratify our senses according to Krishna consciousness, not wantonly, not in a wild, crazy way. And what kind of sense gratification should a devotee have? Chanting, dancing, and feasting for Krishna. That's it, minimum. Nothing else. The crazy people who work day and night so hard to accumulate so much wealth so that they can pass bigger school and eat, sleep, mate, and defend only and ignore Krishna are living a very precarious life because at any moment they could be wiped out. And we see that. Even in this weekend, in this week, we've seen people losing everything, even though they had nice cars, even though they had nice work jobs and nice families, and all wiped out by severe bad weather and flooding and so forth. So trust no uh, future happiness because the material world is actually a place of misery. Even if one is a grahasta and has to earn his livelihood, he should be satisfied by collecting only enough money to maintain body and soul together. One should not have more than or more than one should have one should not have more than that or less than that. As indicated herein, a householder should endeavor to earn money for the execution of bhakti yoga. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. A householder should lead such a life that he gets full opportunity to hear and chant. Well, that's what we're doing. He should worship the deity at home, observe festivals, invite friends in, and give them prasada. A householder should earn money for this purpose, not for sense gratification. Yeah, drinking champagne and swapping wives, that goes on. Be surprised. People actually swap wives. And in general, having very mundane life, not ever thinking about, hey, at any moment they can die. At any moment there can be very bad weather and wipe out everything you have by flooding or by a earthquake, etc. There's no guarantee that we're going to be happy every day. Why? Because the material world is a place of misery. It's not a place of real happiness. But the spiritual world is a place of unending happiness. Therefore, we don't belong in this world. This world is actually a prison house for those people who have forgotten Krishna and engaged in sense gratification. So it says here that a householder should lead such a life that he gets full opportunity to hear and chant about Krishna, of course. He should worship the deity at home, observe festivals. He can worship at home or worship in the temple. Observe festivals, invite friends in and give them prasada. A householder should earn money for this purpose, not for sense gratification. Text number 4. When a person considers sense gratification as the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad, meaning crazy, after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, think it not benefiting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. Yeah, we should learn our lesson in this lifetime. We've had so many lifetimes of sense gratification. Now, in this lifetime, we should engage in tapasya or uh, devotional service by giving up uh, materialistic sense gratification and take up using our mind, senses, and body in the service of Krishna. Purport: begging, borrowing, and stealing to live for sense gratification is condemned in this verse because such consciousness leads one to a dark, hellish condition. The four sinful activities are illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. These are the means by which one gets another material body that is full of miseries. In the Vedas, it is said, Asango hi ayam purusha. The living entity is not really connected with this material world, but due to his tendency to enjoy the material senses, he is put into the material condition. One should perfect his life by associating with devotees. He should not become further implicated in the material body. Text 5. Parabhava stavad abodha jato yavan na jijnasata atma tattvam yavat kriyastavad idam mano vai karmatmakam yena sarirar bandha. As long as one does not inquire about spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Yeah, so there's no devil, but there is ignorance. That's the real devil in material life. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body. What is fruitive activity? Going to the movies and watching a movie or television, or wasting time in mundane activities for sense gratification, barbecues, and all types of uh, eating nonsense things, animals, and liquor, and wine, and so forth. All waste of time and waste of human energy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Generally, people think that one should act very piously in order to be relieved from misery, but this is not a fact. Even though one engages in pious activity and speculation, he is nonetheless defeated. His only aim should be emancipation, meaning freedom from the clutches of Maya and all material activities. There it is, right there. Our takeaway for today. Speculative knowledge and pious activities do not solve the problems of material life. One should be inquisitive to understand his spiritual position. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4:37, Yatai Dharm Si Sunido Nir Basmasat Kurute Rijana Janagni Sarvakarmani Pasnasa Kuvate Tata. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activity. One has to be considered in material bondage. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32, it is also said, Yene Ravindaksha Vimuktamaninas Tvai Astabhave Avisuddha Buddhaya. A person who doesn't have knowledge of devotional service may think himself liberated, but actually he is not. Arura Krichena Parampadam Tata Patanti Atho Nadrita Yusmad Angraya. Such people may approach the impersonal Brahman effulgence, but they fall down again into the material enjoyment because they have no knowledge of devotional service. As long as one is interested in karma and jnana, he continues enduring the miseries of material life, birth, old age, disease, and death. Karmis certainly take on one body after another. As far as jnanis are concerned, unless they are promoted to the topmost understanding, they must return to the material world. As explained in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Vahanam Janmanamante Jnanavam Mam Prapadyate. The point is to know Krishna, Vasudeva, as everything and surrender unto him. Karmis do not know this, but a devotee who is 100% engaged in the devotional service of the Lord knows fully what is karma and jnana, and therefore a pure devotee is no longer interested in karma or jnana. Abhyad, 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 abhyadi sati lisita sunyam, jnana karmadi anavritam. The real bhakta is untouched by any tinge of karma and jnana. His only purpose in life is to serve the Lord. Okay, so there it is. That is our takeaway for today, and our time is up. So, therefore, the point is to know Krishna, Vasudeva, as everything and surrender unto him. Karmis do not know this, but a devotee who is 100% engaged in the devotional service of the Lord knows fully what is karma, what is jnana, and therefore a pure devotee is no longer interested in karma or jnana. Karma means mundane activities, jnana means knowledge that is mundane. Anyabhilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. The real bhakta is untouched by any tinge of karma and jnana. His only purpose in life is to serve the Lord. Okay, that's our takeaway. And if we just follow this, we'll not have any problems in the material world. If we don't, we'll be always harassed by problems in the material world. And we'll be perplexed. Why is this happening to me? People ask that question. Why is this happening to me? Yeah, of course, because you're eating animals, you're engaging in illicit sex, you think that making money, and more money, the real purpose of life, but not giving any attention to engaging in devotional service. Therefore, don't be surprised that you will be always harassed, and you'll never be comfortable in the material world. You'll always be under the laws of material nature that will give you more and more misery, no matter how expert you are to uh, make money and uh, spend money. That's not the real purpose of life. But you can make money and use it in service of Krishna. Now that is a positive thing. But you just make money and spend it on sense gratification, and that's not the purpose of life. All right, we'll stop right there. Are there any questions or comments that you would like to make about what we just heard?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Yes, sir. Prabhu.
Guru Maharaj, I'm listening to the Bhagavatam class with my 10-year-old and 7-year-old, and that 7-year-old falls asleep in the middle of the class. My question is, Guru Maharaj, is what age uh, we should make sure kids understand the Lord Rishabhadev's instruction to his children?
Well, the younger child that's falling asleep because he's like 7 years old, he should be taught to go to sleep earlier. He should go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night. Is he going to sleep at 8 o'clock at night?
We are working on that, Guru Maharaj. Yesterday he went to bed around 9 o'clock.
Okay, well, I mean, it looks like he needs to have 8 hours of sleep. You know,
And then he came for the Mangalarti this morning.
he what?
He came for the Mangalarti. So he woke up at 5 o'clock.
All right. Well, what time did he go to sleep last night?
9 o'clock.
9, so 3, and then 5. 5 and 3 is 8 hours. Well, he slept 8 hours. But that doesn't seem to be enough for him.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
So maybe he should go to sleep earlier.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
What time does he go to sleep?
Uh, 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock.
Mostly he goes to sleep at 9 o'clock, Maharaj, but sometimes he sleeps at 10. When we come back from temple late, after Kirtana service.
Well, Prabhupada recommends, 6 to 8 hours. For kids, 8 hours. For adults, 6 hours of sleep. So, anyway, look, your son, the younger son is what, 7 years old?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. He's at 7.
Yeah. Well, you should gently try to get him maybe to go to sleep earlier, and so that they can wake up.
One time I slept at 11:30.
What's that?
He woke up while we were talking, and then he's talking that one time he slept at 11 o'clock. That he's saying. He became attentive now.
Very good. I'll speak loudly from now on. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And wake up, go to sleep early so you can wake up early and take part in all the classes. And hear very carefully and ask questions and participate in what is called reverent hearing. Reverent hearing. Look it up on the dictionary. Reverent hearing. What does that mean? Reverent hearing. There's different ways of hearing, but we practice reverent hearing. What does it say?
It says reverent hearing. Reverent hearing refers to the act of listening with deep respect and awe, often in a religious or spiritual context. It implies a posture of humility and attentiveness, acknowledging and significance of what is being heard. This can be applied to listening to sacred texts or even the words of a respected elder or spiritual leader.
That's wonderful. It's a nice definition. Reverent hearing. We should put that on the wall on the wall here somewhere. That should be our purpose in class, to engage in reverent hearing of the knowledge of Krishna. Hear with love and devotion for the Lord. That's real hearing. We shouldn't hear like an elephant. Elephant has big, big ears, but he doesn't understand anything. He's got big ears, gigantic ears. You'd think, oh, well, he knows everything. No, he doesn't know anything. All he knows is how to break things and eat, sleep, mate, and defend. But a devotee should be expert in reverent hearing. Read it again. What does reverent hearing mean?
The act of listening with deep respect and awe, often in a religious or spiritual context. It implies a posture of humility and attentiveness, acknowledging the significance of what is being heard. This can be applied to listening to sacred texts or even the words of a respected elder or spiritual leader.
We should put it on the wall right over here, next to Prabhupada.
Yes.
If you can do that, it'd be very nice. And large letters.
So the whole definition, Maharaj?
Yeah. Reverent hearing. That should be our purpose in life. Reverent hearing. So that we can understand our relationship with Krishna and act in our relationship with Krishna to be able to go back to Godhead. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. That is our takeaway for today. Reverent hearing. And we will post it on the wall so that every day you come here, or we can actually repeat what is reverent hearing. So those people who can't come here, we will repeat every day what is reverent hearing at the beginning of class. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
So you'll make a little poster or something,
Yes.
reverent hearing, and every morning before we start class, we'll read what reverent hearing means. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. As we go along reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, it becomes more and more interesting and profound knowledge for our life. Thank Srila Prabhupada. He has gone through so much trouble to give us all this transcendental literature. Therefore, we should spend the time like him on trying to understand this Vedic knowledge so that we can have a Krishna conscious life. He went through all the process of learning and now also compiling all these books that he's written so that we can be educated. This is real education, and therefore we should thank Prabhupada every day for giving us the opportunity to hear transcendental knowledge that is pure, unadulterated, and everlasting. Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Just imagine being a Tarmy and they wake up, they drink some coffee, they hear the news, which is always bad, and they try to see what stock they want to invest in. In other words, they waste their Brahma Muhurta time in all mundane activities. Then they have to run quickly to work and talk nonsense all day long and try to make money and then get laid off and then always be in anxiety and then to stop their anxiety they start drinking liquor and wine and so forth. That's terrible life. Terrible life. Their only so-called happiness is sex. That is a really low level happiness.
His teachings are very powerful, Maharaj. The Rishabh Dev teaching every purport is very strong.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Very strong.